Hello everybody, and thank you for joining me today. So we're going to be talking about this car right here. This is my 1998 Ford Mustang GT. I bought this car March last year and it somewhat ended up being my daily driver, and it's been so exciting. I've done a couple upgrades to this car. I've been drag racing twice. I've taken it to loads of car shows. We've been on so many road trips, me and my friends, and obviously done a lot of burnouts, tried my hand at drifting and donuts. The car's been great, I've loved it. But now we've got to do some maintenance and repairs, starting with the suspension and the engine mounts. So when I do this, put it into gear and hold the car still on the foot pedal, there's a lot of vibration. I'm not sure if you can hear it, but hopefully you can. The whole car basically starts to shake. And that's where the engine mounts and the gearbox mount are close to 30 years old. They're about 26 years old. No vibration in neutral. I've got my foot hard down on the brake. Into drive. And there's a grumbling noise and a vibration. I can feel it through the seat, from the back of the car and from the front of the car. I know it's the engine mounts because now I put it into park or neutral, the vibration goes away. It only happens when you're in gear. I also got a friend to film the engine standing in front of the car whilst I held the car on the brake and built the revs up with the engine in gear, and you can see it torquing over and lifting up to one side. The engine mounts aren't the only issue that I'm tackling today though. So I've been noticing a bit of play in the back axle, especially when I launch. It likes to kind of lift up and lean over a lot, and it slams down really quickly. So I'm going to try and solve that as well. And to do that, I have bought these. So these are tubular, polybushed control arms for the rear axle, upper and lower. I've chosen to upgrade rather than replace them with the factory box section arms, because these tubular design ones will be so much stronger, and as I want to drag race the car and have a bit of fun, that makes a lot of sense. Poly bushings are also a lot better than rubber as well, so these should be much better for my application as they can handle a lot more power as they're stronger in every way. When you compare the rubber bushings from factory to the polyurethane ones, the rubber ones are notoriously soft. The thing is, the factory will use rubber bushings because they're cheaper and they absorb more vibration. But what happens is, under harsh loads they will compress and they will twist. This means that the suspension geometry is never as exact as it could be and should be in a sports car, and the rubber can actually rip and tear. Being made out of a tubular design rather than a box section will also make the arms much stronger. I've slowed this down so that you can see more clearly, but as I brake torque, the back end rises up, it leans over, and when I launch, it drops down unevenly. This slows me down as the tyres have an uneven amount of force applied to them. Fitting these arms wasn't too hard to do. Filming the process, however, that was a bit more difficult, so unfortunately, I only have some photos. I fitted the upper arms first. They went straight in without any difficulty. I still need to replace the bushings that are pressed into the diff, but I'll get to them soon. When it came to fitting the lower arms, I decided at the same time I would replace the rear springs. I didn't go for anything fancy, I just went for an OEM replacement. This is because I haven't decided if I want to go for a set of drag specific springs or lowering springs. But once again, they all went together with no issues. You just have to remember to put a jack under the diff to lift it up and rotate it back into place. There was one concern afterwards. As you can see here, the back of my car was significantly higher than the front all of a sudden. Thankfully this settled down after a bit of driving and a few hundred miles, but that put a bit of a fright on me to start with. Bit of a dragster stance there, like it's a 60s muscle car. Hello everybody. So, doing engine mounts on the Mustang and gearbox mount. So you got polyurethane, energy suspension engine mount, and then just a factory replacement gearbox mount. All one piece. nicely connected. Here's the old one, I just took it off. Put that there. I mean, you can see, wow. That was one launch. One big launch away from ripping apart. Obviously this is quite bad. This is not how it's supposed to be, so I'm glad I got that replaced. I don't think that it could have been left any longer really. So you have to pull the old metal strap out. As you can see, I've removed the little bar that goes through to hold that together in case it does fail, and you put that into your new one. This one obviously is a factory replacement. It's made by WeStar, so that's another rubber bushing in this one. And then the engine mounts. Wow, that's bad. That big hole that you can see through, that's supposed to be filled up by rubber making up a bushing, and yeah, that's crumbled, that's gone, that's not there. You'll see here as we compare it with our new one, which looks a lot nicer being gold, and the red polyurethane bushing inside of it. It should be pretty clear by now to everybody why I've been getting that vibration when I've been holding the car still while it's in gear, and whilst I'm starting the car up it will knock and it will do that vibration as well. If you can't tell, I'm a bit worried for you, but it's because of all this movement you can see in the engine mounts. Now to replace these, it was a bit trickier than doing the back axle, I can't lie. As you see, we needed the car jacked up, we needed the gearbox supported, and we needed the engine supported and raised up. To do this, we used some trolley jacks, some axle stands, some wooden blocks and some rubber blocks. And as you can see here, you can see the new engine mount in there and the small amount of room that we're working with. There's a little hole underneath that you can reach through the suspension with an extension bar and get to the big nut that holds it down. But getting to the 3 bolts that hold it to the engine, that's a bit trickier. There we are. Engine and gearbox mounts are now done on the Mustang. Polybushed engine mounts from Energy Suspension, and then just a normal factory replacement rubber mount for the gearbox. So yeah, I can't lie, at this point I was really quite shocked at just how bad these had gotten, and the fact that I'd been driving on them and thinking what other damage this might have done to my car. Thankfully, I can't see any extra damage caused by these, so I think I've got lucky. But you best keep an eye on your old cars. It took quite a while to get all of this done, probably half a day for the upper arms, another half a day to a day for the lower arms, and then a day, day and a half maybe for the engine mounts and gearbox mount. And even longer to make this video, quite a while, so thank you for sticking around if you've got this far. We're not done yet. I know it's jumped around a little bit, it's been a bit different to some other videos, but let's actually see if we fixed the problem. I mean, that's what we want to know. Does it vibrate and shake and creak and groan? We are going to get a little bit of creaking from the brakes when I cycle through the gears, because it's going to push from one direction to another, going from reverse to forwards. So a little bit of noise is fine. Let's see if it shakes the car through the engine mounts though, which it doesn't seem to do, and I'm really happy about that. I'm going to cycle through the gears here, and yeah, nothing at all. Really happy. I sorted my problem. Let's see if it still does my other problem, which is the back end lifting up, leaning over and then slamming down when I get ready to launch. So I'll put it in first gear, on my foot on the brake, and build up the revs. As you saw, the back end was very firm and held in place there. There was hardly any movement at all, other than the normal amount that you would expect in this situation. That's going to help me massively next time I go racing. Obviously, the conditions here were not the best, but it still allowed me to see the body movement when I launched in the video, and hopefully you could see it too. There's still a little bit more that needs doing on the back end. I'm going to be replacing the shock absorbers next. We're going to go with the Bilstein ones, and they're going to be a drag racing version. So tune in then, and see how that goes.